SIG 365 V Crown, optimized for concealed carry. It's a 115 grain jacketed hollow point rated at 1050 feet per second. So it's a pretty low rated velocity, but really what makes that, optimized for concealed carry? That's kind of the question today. So what I want to do is test it against something that's obviously not optimized for concealed carry, another 115 grain bullet. But instead of this 1050 feet per second that we have rated here, in the past I actually ran this in this G2C 1263 feet per second, 407 foot-pounds energy. That's an extraordinarily powerful round, even out of this 3.2 inch barrel, over 400 foot-pounds energy, and is a 115 grain gold dot. So if we take something that is optimized for concealed carry, what's that going to give us? Is that going to give us better performance? Is it going to give us okay performance? And that's kind of what I want to find out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the chronograph. We already know what we got with that double tap ammo there, but I want to see what we get for velocity and accuracy with the SIG V Crown optimized for concealed carry. So I'm going to do my 10% clear ballistic test. It's just going to be a plain clear ballistic test shot with each. Then I'm going to put in a 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard to represent hitting ribs or sternum, and covered by 4 layers of denim to represent clothing. So it'd be more of our real world scenario testing versus our best case scenario. And then what I want to do is I want to shoot at my target here from 7 yards, because that's what my thinking is, what the purpose of a cartridge like this is so that you can have better shootability, if that's a word, instead of having something that's too hot and hard to handle. And I think that possibly that's kind of why they designed the SIG 365. So let's get started with this test. All right, so we're going to test our velocity rated at 1050 feet per second compared to that double tap ammo that was 1263. So let's see what kind of velocity we get with this. 5 yards from the target. 1139. 1099. 1100. 1081. 1087. So not particularly consistent, but pretty good velocity for what it is. Let's hit our ballistics shell block and see how these 2 rounds will compare. All right, just some plain clear ballistic shots. First up, we're going to try our double tap round. Let's see how this does. All right. Now we're going to put in our 365 round here. And right up above that. Let's see how this does. Let's go take a look. All right, so what we're seeing is indication of more expansion with our double tap. That's why we got less penetration. And we're looking at about 12.5 inches. That's acceptable. With our 365 ammo, we got a penetration of about 16.5 inches. So I would actually consider the V Crown a little bit better. Now let's put on our medium density fiberboard and our denim here, because that can really make a huge difference. Because, in the real world, you're not just hitting jelly. You're hitting some ribs or sternum. You're hitting some clothing on the front. Let's see how that compares. All right, double tap through our denim and MDF. See how this does. All right, let's try our 365 ammo now. All right, our SIG 365 ammo. See how this does. Let's go take a look. All right, that is some pretty weird performance there. Not particularly good in my opinion. With our real world simulation here, with our double tap, we got a penetration of about 21 inches, over penetration, but really not extreme over penetration. Now, obviously, with our 365 ammo, that is extreme over penetration. That's not acceptable. Came out the back of this here. That's a lot of penetration. So Let me throw on this piece of fiberglass body armor here. Let me just set it there and take one more shot. Let me try it one more time. Take a look. All right, so again, we got the same results, just confirming, you know, exactly the same thing almost, except we did stop, you know, right here at about 34 inches. So no expansion whatsoever. So it looks good when people do these jelly tests, but when they actually get serious about this stuff and put some real world simulation in there, not so much. So let me shoot from that. I'm gonna do 7 yards and just see if it's more quote unquote shootable, you know, and see if I can control a little bit better. All right, 7 yards from the target. I'm just gonna do some real world stuff where I pull up my gun, try to get as best sight picture as I can, pop off a couple rounds. So there's our double tap. Let me do a quote unquote double tap with that. Yo, pulling from my holster, more real world. So let's see what this double tap will do. All right, not bad. Let me try the 365 ammo now. All right, our SIG 365. Let's see if that's a little bit easier. The holster, try to get a sight picture, pop them off. And you can see it's a little bit different there. Just a little bit different in my shootability. I have 3 rounds of that double tap left. Let me shoot those. To the body, one to the head, see if I can pull that off. And this stuff seems kind of simple, but I'm trying to actually simulate mentally if this is a real situation. I'm not getting a great sight picture. I'm doing a lot of just very quick. I'm seeing the silhouette of my gun and I'm popping off those shots. Kind of more real world. So let's see what I can do here. Double tap ammo, see if I can pull that off. All right, so not great. A little bit of recoil there. Now let's pull out our SIG 365 ammo. See how that compares. So I do definitely feel a difference when I shoot it that way, because when I do this real world stuff, a lot of people do these real world stuff, and what they do is they get absolutely everything perfect. They hit their hand perfectly on that gun. They get, you know, perfect sight picture before they're firing shots. When I do these shots, what I like to do is I like to look at the real world aspect, you know, what's really going to be going on, kind of mentally get an idea of how it would actually happen. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll pull up that gun. Sometimes that gun is not in a perfect position where it's here. Sometimes it's kind of like right here, a little bit lower than where is supposed to be. And that's my whole point in testing ammo and testing reliability and stuff like that, is you got to take that stuff into consideration, because that stuff can happen. And you want your ammo to be shootable, even in that situation. So let me pop off a few more and see if I can repeat that. And let me get kind of even a lower hold on that pistol. One that's not correct, but one that might be, you know, real world where you might not have the time. Try it again. This time let me get a perfect sight picture and a perfect hold on that pistol. All right, so I'm gonna say that, you know, it is a little bit more shootable than that double tap ammo. And we can learn a couple things from this test. One, 9mm is not the end all be all. As we can see, I've done a lot of testing and gel using like MDF and stuff like that. And the takeaway I've seen it is that, you know, in plain clear ballistic jelly testing, you know, 9mm does well, but when we put the more real world stuff in there, 9mm really doesn't do that well compared to like 40, 357 mag, stuff like that. Even 38 special, a lot of times I've seen 9mm really perform poorly. So that's one thing we can take from it. 9mm is not necessarily the best cartridge ever. But the other thing we can take from this is that 9mm is pretty good when you push it really, really fast, like what we're seeing with that double tap. But when you bring it down to just your average round, it's almost like 9mm takes more energy to perform well versus other cartridges. Like generally what I'm seeing is if I could take a 38 special and I can put it at 250 foot-pounds energy, it will perform as well as a 9mm at 400 foot-pounds. And I think a lot of it has to do with the, the design of the 9mm is very narrow. The hollow cavity has to be small and narrow to feed well. So, this stuff is optimized for concealed carry. I'd say the shootability is better, but our ballistic performance is not as good. So that's my take on the ammo. So that's what you get today. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.